10년, 20년. 50년 못 알아.
that we have. If you're talking about two virtual machine manager clouds, then it would be an export-import process to achieve that today.
All right.
So we have a number of clouds available to us. So I had a summary on the front view, and here you can see we have a production cloud and we have a staging and development cloud. So I get a breakdown at a more individual level as to what's going on. Jumping down a little bit, we talked about managing virtual machines, and I have a number of services running, but I don't know what's running under the hood. I don't know what all the virtual machines are. App Controller allows me to see what all these virtual machines are that are running underneath. We can see which service they are associated with, and depending on what I've been delegated, we have the ability to operate these virtual machines. I can shut them down, I can take a snapshot, I can store them into the library if I want, and I can even do a remote desktop or remote console to those machines as well. If I take a look at the Services tab, now I get to see the status of my applications. I have 6 applications running in my private cloud here and a number of hosted services running on Windows Azure. You can see a couple of different statuses here that I'll touch on as we go through, but I can get a very quick view as to what's going on. Now, going back to the purpose of this demo, where we take a look at how we manage the application resources, I'm going to start with Windows Azure and cover that off and then move on to the private cloud. So Windows Azure has a concept of storage and containers to do that, and Windows Azure works on a package file and a configuration file. I literally can copy and paste files off a standard file share in App Controller and upload them into Windows Azure by doing a copy and a paste. It will take these files. You can see they've got the upgrade file update process is going on. It's just going to copy those up. They'll then be available to me to deploy that hosted service into Windows Azure. And there you go. You can see we just uploaded those 2 files into Windows Azure, and we now have the ability to see those. In a private cloud, I get to manage the underlying resources. So you can see I had 2 private clouds that I had running here. We've got our staging and development cloud, and I have my production cloud. I have a template here, and if I take a look at this, I would like to be able to replicate this application from dev and test and promote it into production. I literally can copy that, move across to my production template library, and once that does a little refresh, I can hit paste. That's kind of how hard it is to move an application or copy an application from one environment to another. I now get a very rich diagram view which breaks down for me. These are all the components that come together to make up my application. This application has 3 tiers. There's a virtual machine manager, virtual machine drive, I should say, in each tier. That's the virtual machine that's running. I've got my server app v packages. I've got some scripts that are running, and they all come together. And from here, I can see which files need to run from one environment to the other.
Well, as we're talking about multiple environments, there's a question that's come up about, moving code between dev and test. More specifically, I'm working in Visual Studio. I'm a developer. Is there a way that I can just push my code, push my app directly into a cloud? Or what's that process of taking it from Visual Studio, handing it off to my IT department to getting that service up and running?
Sure, good question. So in a private cloud, it depends on how you're publishing that application. If you're compiling it as a traditional app, and it's an MSI or an XE kind of thing, you can hand that off, and you just saw I was working within the file share. You could literally put it on a file share and alert your application manager to say, there's a new version, go get it. The application manager could then copy and paste it into the library. If your application owner delegates you that right, you as a developer could simply publish directly to that file share, which would then mean that it got landed into the library. Once it's in the library, it can then be compiled into the service template, and that's somewhere where typically is probably not a developer task. It's typically an IT pro task. So getting the file into the share is developer. Once it's there, the IT pro can configure the service template. If it was a server app v package, then we can do a few extra things. Server app v allows us to do updates over the top of existing applications in a service template. So therefore, we could have the developer take a copy of our service template, inject in the new server app v package, test it, make sure it works okay, and then give it to us and say, here's your new service template. IT pros can then do their testing. They can make sure it's okay, it's going to meet SLAs, nothing broke, we're all good. They can delegate that out to an application owner who can then hit the upgrade button. And literally, that's what it looks like. And tomorrow when we go through monitoring and operating, I'm going to show you how we actually do that. And we'll upgrade an application as one of the demos.
Great.
So to finish off how we copy and paste between environments, you can see we have some green ticks here. What that means is that those application resources already exist in the environment. App Controller has mapped them, there's done a compare, and it's got both the same version of the file, same application resources are there. For the ones with the red star, this is where we can choose to either copy that file from the other environment into the new one, or we can map it to existing. This service template, I've got a staging VHD file here, which is just a blank VHD. We don't want to be copying 40 gig of VHDs between environments when the base platform is exactly the same. So we're going to do a map to existing, and that's going to bring up all the existing resources that are in our private cloud, and that allows us to then map to our disparate image that's exactly the same, and it's going to remap that on the way through. We'll map each of those on the way through. And when we hit OK, App Controller is now going to duplicate that service template and all of those resources across from dev and test into production and be available to me as an application owner. So I know that this is an exact copy of what I have in dev and test because it was a copy paste of a service template. And so that's how we do application resource management across both a little bit on Windows Azure and on the private cloud as well, managing all those underlying files and being able to, as an application owner, have access to those in a delegated fashion. So I will jump back. I need to minimize that down. Okay. So now that we know how to do all that underlying application resources, all the service templates coming together, we're going to take a look at how we deploy applications, which is the critical bit. We've got everything staged, we're all good to go, we can now deploy out. How do we do that? So Server@V. Server@V has four sort of parts to it. The first is the sequencing, and this Server@V literally is a install and capture mechanism. You start it, you do all the installation, you configure your application, and it will capture everything that you changed on the way through. Once that is captured, you can then move into deploy mode. It enables us to have that application as a template in our library, injected into service templates and deployed in the same way every time. Moving into updating, that self-service application management process of a new file comes in, as we just talked about, it's updating, and we just want to slip that over the top. Or we've got an operating system update. Patch management is very different with Server@V. And that ability that we have to export off the application and all the stateful information, put a new operating system underneath that's been patched and updated, and then put the application back on. We can scale out, do one upgrade domain at a time, and ensure that the application is always available. And then from an availability point of view, that process that we just went to means that we can always make sure that there is an instance of the application available as we go through this. As you don't need to reboot servers, you don't need to take them offline in order to do those kind of updates. So what can we actually do with Server@V? From a host perspective, we're talking about Windows services, we're talking about IIS web applications. We can capture those into web deploy packages. We capture all of the user accounts, things like local system, network service, domain accounts, local users and groups. They all get captured as part of this process. When you have a service as part of your application, when you deploy your Server@V package, Server@V dynamically registers that with the Service Control Manager, and you actually see it dynamically pop into the Service Control Manager, and from an operating system point of view, you can't tell the difference on how they're running. Resources, things like application binaries, all of the COM and DCOM, text-based configurations, INI files, those kinds of things, WMI providers, SQL Server, reporting services configurations are captured. Registry settings, of course, COM objects, the .NET components themselves, things like the .NET runtime, .NET 3, 4 and so forth can be encapsulated, and you can drop those down. Java applets can be captured. So all of this comes through. And a common question that I often get is, well, what applications can be sequenced with?
Today's business is constantly on the move. Your company workforce has to be highly mobile in order to be productive and efficient. To achieve this, organizations are heading to the public cloud for collaboration and sharing solutions. But that can mean risking your confidential business data on vulnerable cloud security. What if you can enjoy the convenience of collaboration tools running on your own architecture with powerful security to keep your sensitive business information under your control? iCOSA can address all these concerns. iCOSA is an on-premise secured private plug-in cloud appliance that ensures your files and messages to be secured at rest and in transit. iCOSA makes it a breeze to collaborate with coworkers and external partners. Users can share files, folders, and messages quickly and securely, anytime, anywhere, with any device. The IT side can enjoy complete control and visibility. You can also remotely wipe out data on lost or stolen devices, thus keeping corporate information secured. And it's priced at an affordable cost with 4 terabytes of storage space and access for 200 users available. iCOSA, fast, safe, and easy to manage. The ultimate highly secured private cloud-based enterprise solution.
Okay, welcome back. This is theCUBE's coverage live in San Francisco, California. theCUBE, our flagship program. We go out to the events, extract the signal from the noise. I'm John Furrier with Dave Vellante of Wikibon.org, and our next guest, Patrick Rogers, Vice President of Product Marketing and Alliances at NetApp. Welcome back to theCUBE.
Thank you very much.
We had just an amazing time with NetApp at the VMworld. You guys had a great presence there, really dominated the show. You had the marquee event at AT&T Park where we had theCUBE on the center field grass. You guys celebrating with your top customers, great event. Really, we got to see a little bit of the new NetApp, and I call it the software-defined NetApp. You're seeing a real focus on NetApp, and Dave and I were commenting after that. This software, everyone's talking about software is the focus.
Absolutely.
And that's what NetApp was based on.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you guys are in a good pole position, stocks up, companies kind of running in that direction. Tell us, what's the update here with NetApp and Oracle, and let's just jump right in.
Sure. So, it's funny, but we have a little saying around NetApp that our products are nothing more than software wrapped in sheet metal. And it's absolutely true to your point. It's all about the software. And one of the key topics and hot themes here, obviously, is cloud. And NetApp has a pretty fundamental assumption about the impact of the cloud on enterprise IT, and that is that IT managers are no longer going to be just builders and operators of IT infrastructure.